As the situation in Iran spirals out of control, a carrier battle group is headed to the Middle East.
Further south in the city of Isfahan, Fox News was able to make contact with a man who is using Starlink. He described battles between protesters and security forces who are using live ammunition.
Breaking tonight, President Trump is still weighing a wide variety of options, military options, to target Iran over its deadly crackdown on anti-government protesters. Fox News tonight can confirm military assets are moving toward the Middle East after a recent withdrawal of Navy firepower in the region. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin has that story.
Okay, so the carriers are coming.
Good evening, Brett. Well-placed official sources tell me U.S. military assets are preparing to move to the Middle East, likely to include at least one aircraft carrier and additional missile defense systems that will operate from air, land, and sea.
At the moment, the situation for the demonstrators in the street, the atmosphere is like a war zone.
I believe it.
And some people are trying to escape from it. I have to emphasize that among Iranian people, Trump is the most popular person right now. He has so much popularity because of the steps that he took toward preventing the growth of terrorism in the Middle East. They respect him. The internet blackout in Iran continues, making it difficult for people to get new information, although international calls were briefly going through overnight.
The U.S. military had presented strike options for President Trump to consider, but could not guarantee the regime would be overthrown. The president reportedly wanted assurances that any military action would be swift, decisive, and not lead to a wider war in the Middle East.
That's what everybody wants.
The U.S. military posture in the Middle East was not ready for a decisive strike. It had no aircraft carrier in the Middle East for the first time in years because the Pentagon ordered the USS Ford to the Caribbean.
We were in Venezuela just a couple weeks ago.
3 destroyers and 3 littoral combat ships were in the Middle East as of Wednesday. Half the number of U.S. warships currently stationed in the Caribbean near Venezuela. Any aircraft carrier would take 1 to 2 weeks to get to the Middle East. The U.S. also removed some of its anti-missile batteries out of the Middle East following last summer's strike on Iran's nuclear sites. Those could soon be returning. As for what the U.S. military options look like, experts say the president still has a lot of firepower in the Middle East, including an Ohio-class submarine capable of firing up to 154 Tomahawk missiles.
So what do you mean the opportunity to send a quick precision strike doesn't exist? That sounds like it'd be pretty quick. But the significance of the carrier battle group in the Middle East, that is going to scare the pants off these despots who are pretty afraid of their own people right now, who are protesting for freedom that has been stolen from them by this regime.
Regime targets could include missile production and storage sites, oil refineries key to their economy, or some of the leaders themselves.
Their economy's collapsing.
How Israel decapitated Hezbollah.
The Israelis used cyber attacks to bring leadership together so that they could bomb and kill the leadership. So there are multiple tools that can be used in different ways to cause these very same kinds of problems to this regime.
And
the president is sending military assets
right
to the region, and all options remain on the table. But there's also this Wall Street Journal report that says President Trump was told an attack on Iran wouldn't guarantee the collapse of the regime. The reporting goes on to say the U.S. officials and Middle Eastern partners told the White House the regime was unlikely to fall after a massive bombing campaign, which could instead spark a broader conflict. Smaller assault packages, meanwhile, could boost morale among protesters, but ultimately not change the regime's crackdown. So taken as a whole...
That's what they keep telling us. They keep telling us that any action against Iran, which has the ability to be quick and decisive and overwhelming, isn't going to harm their country. They told the entire world that, if you go after Iran's nuclear program, that's just going to solidify that government. It's going to make them even stronger. That started the collapse we're seeing right here.
Iran is extremely militarized. The regime is defended by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, who are loyalists, fanatics, and actually the prime beneficiaries of Iran's corrupt and excavated economy. It is imperative the United States stands with the Iranian people, and I do believe the president will make the decision to strike ballistic missile launchers, manufacturing capabilities, drone factories, a number of other assets to begin with, which can be readily targeted by the United States without ground troops or any kind of invasion, which would be unacceptable for the president and the American people.
That's right. Nobody
Regimes
wants that.
don't die overnight, but this is a dying regime.
Yes.
And if we fail to stand with the Iranian people who are being targeted by snipers, then we will go down in history as not standing up for the dignity and nobility for almost 100 million Iranians who deserve better.
Yeah, and that same Wall Street Journal report.
Tensions appeared to be easing earlier this week.
Yeah, the regime
the president announced
doesn't want this.
Halted the killing of protesters. But Gulf allies, including Qatar and Saudi Arabia, they have reportedly urged the president to pull off on those strikes. But White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt pushed back on that when questioned by News Nation's Kelly Meyer.
A lot of these stories, to be honest with you, I've been reading them, and they've been based on anonymous sources who are pretending or guessing to know the president's thinking. The truth is, only President Trump knows what he's going to do, and a very, very small team of advisors are read into his thinking on that.
You know, the other thing that's fascinating about this is for months, we were also told that, oh, Venezuela, the U.S. cannot do anything to get rid of Maduro. He's entrenched. He's got his security forces. He's got this big military. They've got jets. Nothing's going to happen. And what happened? At 2 o'clock in the morning, he was removed from his bedroom and placed in a New York City jail.
You just heard the White House's response to reports that Gulf allies warned against an attack on Iran. Now the Wall Street Journal reports the president was advised that a large-scale strike against Iran was unlikely to make the government
fall. It's like they're defending the regime.
Spark a wider conflict. What, in your eyes, would be the domino effect if the president does give the green light for the U.S. to go in?
Well, first of all, I should say the task of overthrowing this regime belongs to the people of Iran, and they have accepted that challenge. And the carnage that you saw in the streets of Iran, the regime impart on the people of Iran, is a great indicator
Israeli
of that
flags
struggle.
in Iran.
The people of Iran have been trying to overthrow this regime for 45 years. I think what we see today is a kind of convergence of a lot of factors: an organized opposition inside Iran, international pressure, and of course weakening of Iran's proxies and nuclear weapons program. And so that really, the change in Iran will have to occur and will occur in the streets of Iran and their organized resistance. And that's really what the key is. The people of Iran have an organized resistance that is trying to, by the way, establish a secular democratic republic and not return to a single party rule in the past.
And one of the major things that has just completely leveled Iran's regime and caused a lot of this collapse has been the crackdown on Venezuela. Venezuela was sending their oil, which they couldn't refine themselves, over to Iran to have it refined. Iran keeps some of that oil, sends the rest back as fuel, which Venezuela then sells to Cuba. All of these countries, all these regimes, they're like propping each other up. It's like a bookshelf. When you take away one of the bookends, everything falls down, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
The current regime has been bankrupt on many different levels, right? Bankrupt politically, bankrupt morally.
Their currency's worthless.
The people of Iran, to your point, have wanted this regime toppled for years. What does this moment feel like to Iranians, not just there on the ground, but really around the world right now?
Everyone's hoping.
Right. You mentioned earlier
these guys
that tensions have eased maybe internationally a bit, but tensions in Iran, in the streets of Iran, have not eased.
No.
The people of Iran are in a hand-to-hand combat with the regime.
They're not going to give up.
Whether it is visible in the street or not. And the executions are a marker of that. But their desire is still for regime change.
Yeah.
And the regime change request has a pedigree that dates back 45 years and to the formation of the National Council of Resistance of Iran and the regime choice to crack down. The good news is the people of Iran have an organized resistance that is trying to change the regime and establish a secular democratic republic. And I'm really glad that just yesterday, 59 bipartisan members of the United States House of Representatives sent a letter to Secretary Rubio urging kind of reaffirming the Iranian people's desire for that republic.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see what happens, because what we know from the past few weeks, especially the Venezuelan situation, is that there's nothing, but the U.S. forces are showing up, they're gathering, they're getting stronger. The president says, hey, I think somebody should step down. If they don't, things could be bad for them. And then there's nothing, and then bam, something happens quickly.
Comment yesterday about a phone call that President Trump had with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And that reporting says that the prime minister encouraged President Trump not to strike right now. And one of the reasons is because he's concerned that a larger conflict could be sparked as a result of a strike, which seems like a unique position for the prime minister to take, considering he himself has led the charge on doing that very thing. So what do you think about a potential larger conflict to be manifested after a strike in where the prime minister stands right now?
These reports are to sow doubt in the minds of everybody who might want
a couple of things. First of all, while assets and ships are on the way, the United States has an extraordinary military presence and support from the Kurdish part of Iraq, where we have our biggest assets in Erbil. So we are ready to strike with imminent proximity. Secondly, nobody understands the Iranian threat better than Israel, that's been the recipient of Iran's tremendous proxy wars through Hezbollah and Hamas. And so, as well as the disruption of Syria by Iran and Lebanon by Iran.
But here's where I've got an issue with this. After the Iranian nuclear sites were hit, wasn't that the moment to start this broader conflict? Why didn't anything happen after that? Yes, they retaliated. They launched a whole bunch of rockets towards Israel, but they were stronger then when that happened. They had more power then. Their currency was worth more then. They didn't have riots in their streets then like they do today. They're weaker today than they were then, and nothing happened then, or at least they weren't able to do anything.
But I do have confidence in the Iranian people. They are highly intelligent. They're part of a 5,000-year civilization.
Yeah, they're not dumb.
Every Iranian that I talk to detests the tyranny they lived under 51 years, I think today, the Shah was forced out of Iran. And so there are many unknowns, but I think the United States is extremely well positioned, and I have every confidence the president is going to take action and make the best decision.
So she says it's going to happen.
What's made of that strike is up to the Iranian people. And we also have to remember, Iran has amazing naval assets which control the outflow of oil in the Persian Gulf, and that is extremely worrisome to our Gulf partners and the global energy markets.
That's why these other nations are saying, hey, don't do anything yet, because they don't want to lose money over a conflict that they don't fully see the end of. Only the president of the United States knows what could potentially happen if there is military action. Nobody wants that, by the way. Everybody hopes the supreme leader in Iran just steps down and there is a peaceful transition of power. But if that's not going to happen, if these guys want to be militant, if they want to continue to threaten their neighbors and their own people, something's got to be done.
Systems, their telecommunications, their ability for the IRGC and the Bashi militia who are on the streets to communicate effectively.
Yeah, there's probably
also,
something being done to mess with them right
against
now.
Their surveillance capability of the population itself. All of those are capabilities the United States has that are second to nobody's. Our offensive cyber capability is really something very special. And then we get to information operations. We are likely conducting information operations against the oppressors.
I believe it.
The middle-level leaders of the oppressors.
Confusing them.
People also carrying the guns.
Throwing them into disarray.
And I believe it's when, kinetic operations are conducted against that organization, against its leaders, we want divisiveness in it.
Yeah.
We want that organization to break apart. We want some of them to go over to the side of the protesters.
Yep.
Because the reality
is the regime
is more in trouble as a result of kinetic operations. And then the administration into kinetic operations itself, obviously leaders, obviously the organization is doing is suppressing. But you have to consider what else? Iran's ability to retaliate. Who would they retaliate against? U.S. bases and Israel. So one, let's make certain that the defense of those systems are as good as they can be. And that has to be taken into consideration. And then what do we do about the target set in reducing Iran's capability to conduct those retaliation attacks? These are all things that are laid out to the president and making decisions and options. And obviously that means we would have to expand the target set to make certain we take down some of Iran's ballistic missiles, I assume.
So when the operation in Venezuela happened, a whole bunch of sites were all hit right away. And within just a couple hours, things were over. And the U.S. had positioned itself with its carriers and with its fleet for a second strike if needed, which the president has said we're not going to need because things are apparently transitioning rather well over there, considering that just a couple of weeks ago, everything in that country changed forever. Now the question is, how does that translate to what happens in Iran? I think something happens en masse all around the country, every single important site that they have that allows them to wage war and retaliate. All those things are going to be knocked out right away while there is a kinetic strike potentially at some sort of meeting location where you have these leaders or where these leaders are extracted from the country, which I doubt. Iran's got a lot of air defenses. We'll have to see.
I don't know. I don't ask those kind of questions. But just looking at the portfolio and what needs to be done, you always have to consider what is the retaliation that Iran is going to do here. And let's get something
Hopefully
straight.
They don't go after their own people.
The objective of this attack has never been they're going to go to collapse this regime and we're going to get a regime change. I mean, that article, I totally disagree with it. The president has known that from the outset. At best, what would come of this is we put the Iran regime on a pathway to its collapse. That's at best. We don't have an organization to take it over. If there was an organization out there ready to take over the regime, what would Iran do with that?
That's the people. The people are ready to take over the regime. They have an organized resistance effort. They're going to move in. They're going to do something. They have plans in place to go and take back their own country. And like the other analyst said, this whole thing rests on the people of Iran to step up and take back their government when they have the moment to do that. They're already trying to every single day. This whole protest situation there is not ending. Iran's even closed their airspace off.
The killing in Iran is stopping, and it's stopped, and it's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or executions. So
yeah, they did back down.
Authority. We'll find out.
They're already being pressured, these guys.
I'm sure if it happens, we'll all be very upset. Including you, will be very upset.
And moments ago, Iran closed its airspace without explanation, at least temporarily. Here to discuss this, happen. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. Senator, 3 hours ago, we were hearing that America could be planning military strikes against Iran. However, the president came out and made those kind of cryptic comments about the killing stopping. Then Iran closes its airspace, and we're moving personnel out of our military bases in the region.
Wow.
What the heck's going on here?
Yeah, they think something's going to happen.
Well, Laura, what I would recommend is rather than closing its airspace, it stop the violence against its own people.
Right.
The massacre of innocents.
That's all they've got to do is just step down peacefully. These guys would rather destroy their country. If you don't have airspace, you don't have an economy. If your currency collapses, you don't have an economy. If there's no water for people to drink, you don't have a country. But these despots do not care about that at all. They just want to be in charge no matter what it takes.
And urging support.
And do they want the United States to come in and strike? Like, tell me about the thinking of Iranians when it comes to that. Do they want President Trump
I think they're ready.
to greenlight
they don't
a strike
have
and come in
unlimited time
and use
to
his
protest.
military might to help with this?
Right. I think from here in the United States, I would be in the wrong place to speak for the people of Iran directly. But what I do know, the Iranian people in the streets are fighting this regime themselves. They want to make this change themselves. They need moral and political support. The international community, including the United States, should sever all ties with the regime, expel its diplomats from their capitals, and hold the person of Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, accountable for ordering the massacre that unfolded before us. Those steps must occur now, not tomorrow. That is more urgently needed than any kind of military intervention.
Right. What a peaceful thing that could happen. Just expel these diplomats. If you're another country like Canada, why are you housing Iranian diplomats? Why are they still there? Expel them. Get rid of them. Trump should put pressure on our allies to start doing things like this. He probably already is. And once that happens, I mean, this country's going to be totally isolated. They're going to be like North Korea. Do they want to be like North Korea? I think the people in charge of it might. But the people here look like they are bound and determined to make sure that doesn't happen and that they take back their country as quickly as possible. I worry about them because they don't have unlimited time. They can't protest in the streets forever while food supplies and water supplies are dwindling and while their economy collapses. It's going to be a very challenging situation over the next few days, and I wonder if we're going to see something happen very quickly. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.